Hi, good evening and good afternoon to everyone. I am Estela Mata from Looms for Lupus. I'm one of the co-founders here, and I want to welcome everyone to today's live symposium. We have an amazing discussion on lupus and mental health today in partnership with GSK. And with us today, we are going to have Amalia Vega. She's the patient engagement liaison with GSK. And then we also have a special guest. We have the award-winning writer, director, Lorena Gordon, who will also be sharing her journey with lupus. If this is the first time that you are tuning in, welcome. Looms for Lupus is a nonprofit organization that provides support, awareness, advocacy, and educational symposium like today's to support those living with lupus, overlapping conditions like fibromyalgia and mental health, and their loved ones and caregivers as well. But before I introduce our guest today, I want to give a quick disclaimer. The information provided today by Looms for Lupus and or any of the panelists on this live symposium is provided for general informational purposes. And even though some of our panelists may be medical professionals, anything that is represented or talked about or discussed today does not substitute for professional medical advice. We ask that you please seek the advice from your physician with any questions that you may have regarding your medical treatment or your conditions. And please, if this is again the first time you're joining in, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Put in your comments, your name, where you're tuning in from. This is going to be an interactive session, and we want you to post your questions on there, and we will get through those. And with no further ado, let me go ahead and bring on to the stage. Hi, Lorena. And we are having, I think Amalia is having technical difficulties. So we're going to bring her on in just 1 second. There you go. Hi, Amalia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you both for coming on to join us today on this, great discussion that we're going to be having on lupus and mental health. We know that lupus is an autoimmune condition that can impact our bodies both physically and mentally, and it's so important to highlight, all of these different things that people go through living with these conditions. And the month of October, I don't know if many people know this, but it is Depression Awareness Month. And also the first week of October is Mental Illness Awareness Week. And on, I believe, October 10th, it is World Mental Health Day. So we're having these amazing discussions because we know that it could be difficult living with these conditions. So now I'm going to first introduce Amalia and then Lorena. So Amalia is started working at GSK on June 1st, so a couple of months ago. And prior to that, she worked as a clinical educator at Takeda. In the role, she served as an educator for a portfolio of bleeding and metabolic disorders. And prior to joining the industry, Amalia worked as a health educator and program evaluator for 2 nonprofit agencies in the Los Angeles County. She received her bachelor's degree in sociology and earned her master's in public health in 2012. She went on to obtain her certified health educational specialist certification soon after, and she is currently pursuing a doctorate degree in public health in Claremont Graduate University in California. Amalia is excited to be part of this specialty business unit at the PEL role. Amalia lives in Southern California, and in her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family, reading, and going to the beach and traveling. Wow. You're going for your PhD. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you, Estela. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad that you're here. And then public health, that's another thing we do is we want to advocate for our community. Those living with autoimmune conditions or chronic conditions, already we have so many barriers that we have to overcome that, public policy is something that is also dear to our hearts. And we also have the amazing Lorena Gordon here with us today. She is an award-winning writer, director, hailing from Queens, New York. Lorena began her journey in film working as a production assistant on sets at the young age of 18 with directors such as Martin Scorsese, Sam Mendes, and Ben Stiller. She then made her way to the director's chair after feeling inspired and determined to tell her stories. As someone who was born and raised in one of the melting pots in the world, Queens, New York, Lorena is committed to telling character-driven stories that are authentic and personal. The stories Lorena feels most passionate about telling are about human condition and giving a platform for the Latinx, queer, and disability communities. Lorena has directed, written, and produced short films like Times Like These, At Last, and both of her films have been picked for distribution. Most recently, Lorena wrote and directed the short film At Last, starring Zach Gottsigan and George Lopez. The film garnered her awards for Best Director and Best Short Film throughout its festival run. At Last was picked up and it is now streaming on HBO Max. In addition to her narrative work, she has also directed music videos. She recently was a finalist for the 2023 Series Fest and Shondaland Women's Directing Mentorship Award. Lorena was selected as a fellow for the 2023 Respectability Entertainment Lab. She's currently in development for her first feature film. Wow, Lorena, I am in awe. If you guys have not watched At Last, you guys have to. And it's now streaming on HBO Max. So that's amazing. Thank you for coming to
Thank you for having me.
presentation.
So honored. Thank you.
Yes. And, living with lupus can be difficult. But one of the things that I love is the fact that your dreams haven't stopped, that you have continued to live and thrive in this so difficult industry that's not, you don't see a lot of women or Hispanic Latina women, being out there, working so hard and getting all these awards for your hard work and dedication. So I'm so happy that you are here with us today.
Thank you, Seda. I'm so happy to be here with you all.
Yes. So what we're going to do is we are going to bring Amalia back, I think, and then we are going to start with a presentation about lupus and mental health. And then once we do that, we'll have a couple of, we have an opportunity for questions and answers, a Q&A session. And then we'll come back to you, Lorena, so you can share with us a little bit more about when you were first diagnosed. How did that impact you? And then also how you're continuing to thrive despite living with lupus. So we'll bring you backstage and we'll bring Amalia back on.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. I don't know what. That was very weird. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but I think if it's okay, I said I can just share my screen because it looks like that's what's causing the, uploading the slides is what's causing the delay.
Okay. I don't have your presentation.
I think I can share my screen.
Okay, go ahead and share it and I'll bring it up.
So we're gonna have to do it like old school.
Oh, that's fine.
It looked so pretty before, but
it's okay. Here we go. Let me go ahead and bring it. And again, thank you all for tuning in. I am going to let you present, Amalia, and then I'll come back up. We're going to be learning more from you. So thank you again for being here with us.
You got it. Thank you for the warm welcome, Estela. I'm so grateful and privileged to be part of this group of folks. Today, we're going to be talking about lupus, but in particular, lupus and how it relates to mental health. Before I get started, I just want to let folks know that this presentation doesn't substitute a conversation with your doctor, of course. And so this presentation it's a long one, but I'm going to focus solely on the parts that apply to our presentation today. So most of it's going to have to do with lifestyle. So I'm going to just kind of move forward here. When we talk about lupus, there's these invisible signs, right, that it has on the body, the ones that we can't see and the ones that we can see, right? So we can and we can't. But one of the things that I want to bring to your attention is when we look at the neurological effects, it does talk about headache, seizures, stroke, and neuropathy. But most importantly, it also talks about depression. So depression can look different for everybody, right? There's some people that we can see them and we think, wow, something's wrong. And then we see other folks and we think, okay, well, they're absolutely fine, right? So I think that in some ways it can be both invisible and visible. I want to talk about brain fog also, because I think that's something that causes folks a lot of frustration. So I don't know if anybody here has experienced this. Maybe you do. The statistic is that 50 to 80% of the people that are living with lupus experience this brain fog. And it's like the word kind of fits it, right? Like your brain just feels kind of foggy. You get confused really easily. You start forgetting things, and it's really difficult to concentrate. So things like work, a conversation that you're having with somebody. Maybe you run into somebody on the street and you guys are talking. So I wanted to mention brain fog, and I always do when I talk about mental health, because sometimes when folks start to feel this brain fog, it starts to affect other parts of their lives. Maybe some of the things that make us happy, right? Writing, spending time with our friends, whatever it is that your hobby is. If you're having brain fog, it's going to affect that, right? So what do you do when you can't participate in the things that are making you happy, right? Whatever those things may be. So when we talk about symptom tracking, we always talk about journaling, but if you pull your attention to the bottom, see how at the bottom it says mental state and emotions. So there's diagnosis, tests and procedures, symptoms, right? All of this stuff is super important when you're doing any kind of symptom tracking or any kind of journaling. But one of the things that we always encourage folks to do is, if they have time, take it an extra step further, and whatever symptom it is that you're feeling, even something that you might be feeling after you took a treatment, some type of medication for your lupus, write down maybe how you're feeling in terms of your mental state, right? Were you feeling connected? Were you feeling grounded? When you were experiencing these symptoms, that you're talking about or that you're writing about, did you feel like you were maybe alone or scared or confused, right? So along with, writing all of this stuff down, if you're able to track what your mental state is and those emotions, maybe it'll be a way for us to kind of reflect afterwards and say, well, you know what? I noticed that when I was feeling stressed, this particular symptom felt worse. Or if I was feeling sad, this particular symptom happened to feel worse. So yes, when it comes to health journaling and managing your symptoms, this should very much be part of that process too. So I'm going to fast forward. Now, I think that for a lot of different people, everybody kind of has their thing, what makes them feel good, right? We always like to talk about staying active because studies have shown that it is important for your physical and mental health. And when you do find a way to make exercise a routine, so part of your everyday, it's going to help with your heart and joints, and it's going to strengthen your confidence and mood, right? So when you think about it, if you're physically feeling better, emotionally you're going to feel better too, most likely, right? Because you're going to have the energy and you're going to have the strength to do those things that make you happy, right? Whether it be just hanging out on the couch with your family, right? You're going to be very much in that place because you're not going to be feeling uncomfortable anywhere else. Whenever we talk about staying active, it's never about you got to go to the gym and pay like a $50 a month fee. It's nothing like that. Some people, they clean their house, they go outside and they wash their car, you walk your dog, you do some tidying up, right? Or you're with the kids or whatever, just anything that gets the blood flowing and your body moving. And of course, you want to check with your doctor, right? Always, if you're going to start doing something different than what you're usually doing. But this is always a good start. Sleep is underrated. I think that Now that I'm older, I love to sleep. When I was a kid, I never wanted to sleep, right? But there are so many studies that talk about how sleeping can affect your quality of life. There's a lot of folks that I've talked to that have said that when they're not sleeping enough, they get very anxious. And sometimes that anxiety can turn into depression, right? Depending on how much it's affecting you. So sleep does all these amazing things for your body, right? It restores and recovers your body, all your cells, right? Like while you sleep at night, it's almost like your body's regenerating itself. The timing, duration, and then the quality of your sleep are very important factors. It can affect your metabolism. Super important, your immune function, disease resistance, and just overall feeling better. I think it's difficult for some of us to, I don't know about you all, but sometimes I will get on my phone and I am just, on the phone. And so it's about finding balance, right? What can you do to make sure that you have the best sleep that you can? Mindfulness. I don't know if anybody has heard of mindfulness or if they've practiced it. And the reason that I say practice is because it is a practice in a lot of ways. When you're mindful, you're aware of your thoughts, of your situation, and you're not judging it. So, what does that mean? It basically means that me here with all of you right now, I am being mindful. Why? Because I am aware that I am in front of a computer screen and in front of all of you. I'm not thinking about yesterday. I'm not thinking about tomorrow, right? And I'm in the moment. I'm not judging myself or the situation. I am simply here in this moment talking to all of you. That's what I'm doing. The key to be present with acceptance and without judgment is basically what it means. And the reason that I say is it's a practice is because it's not an easy thing for some folks to do. One of the best ways that I can explain mindfulness is when you see kids, they're out playing or they're, just by themselves, and maybe they're outside. They're so calm and they're having fun and they're being mindful, right? Because they are not thinking about tomorrow. They're not thinking about the past or yesterday or maybe something that scares them, right? All that matters is that they are there, just like you and I are here, right? I'm safe, I'm good. Maybe I am experiencing some pain. Maybe I'm experiencing some joint pain. Maybe I do have some brain fog. But you know what? I am here. I am safe in this moment, right? And I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm not going to let my mind wander and say, oh no, what if tomorrow my foot hurts? What if later on it starts hurting more? What if I can't go to work tomorrow, right? When those thoughts start to ruminate in our head, we're not being mindful anymore, right? We're replaying this story that we've made up in our head. And I think it's only natural for us to think the worst, right? So by no means am I trying to say that this is an easy practice, but once you start practicing, it becomes easier and easier to continue to be aware, not judge the situation, try your best not to think about the past, try your best not to think about the future, and just live in the present moment. This is one of the things that I think is very important when we talk about our overall mental health. So we all have to recognize the strength that we all have, right? Because there's some days that are good, there's some days that are bad. There are tools that we can implement, right? We talked about journaling and putting like what your mental state is. You can also be a little bit more reflective with your writing, and that can also help. But at the end of the day, we have to remember, right, that having a chronic condition requires self-love and self-confidence. Sometimes when we're not feeling ourselves is when we feel the most disappointed in ourselves, especially if people depend on us, right? Our kids, our family members, people that we work with, right? But dealing with the new and changing reality of life with lupus can be hard. So I'm talking about all these tools, folks, absolutely, but by no means am I diminishing how difficult those days can be and how difficult those flare-ups can be for some folks, right? That's why we say try to stay positive, be kind to yourself during those times of stress. And if you do find yourself stressed out, be compassionate with yourself and say, okay, bring yourself back to the present moment, right? Practice that mindfulness and say, okay, I'm not feeling very good right now for whatever reason. And I'm stressing out, but you know what? That's okay because I'm aware. And once you have that awareness, that's already half the battle because you're aware of what's going on. And when you're aware, you can, put a plan into practice to start to make yourself feel better. Also, don't forget your support group, right? This doesn't have to be a formal support group. It can be family, friends, even all of us here today, right? We're all here to provide each other with tremendous support. Also super important as well to help keep our spirits up, help us stay positive, and help us to continue to move forward. So that is the end of my presentation. I always like to leave folks with these different QR codes. There's different ones that you can, you just use your phone and you take a picture. If you are interested in how to be a little bit more reflective with the journaling and the symptom tracking to include how your mental state is, you can always put the phone onto the QR code that talks about symptom tracking, and it has a lot of really good prompts to help you with that. And then also, we always say, folks, advocate for yourselves. Advocating is not something that necessarily, I think some people have a bad or a negative connotation of what advocating means. But all you're doing is asking your doctor more questions, not being afraid or embarrassed to bring up any type of emotional discomfort that you are feeling. Maybe you feel like you are depressed. Maybe you feel like you are overstressed. And so feeling comfortable enough with your healthcare provider to share this information with them so that you can then come up with a plan together on how to address it so that you can feel your best self. And with that being said, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time, and I will stop sharing.
Yes. So, Amalia, thank you so much for all this great information. It's just so amazing to see how many different ways we can support one another. Not only that, how many different ways people can utilize different methods and methodologies to relieve that stress and to focus on themselves. Because whether you live with an autoimmune condition or not, it is something that I think we all need to kind of be mindful of, is taking care of ourselves. So I'm going to there's so many people. I just want to say hi to Kelly Rosetta, hi to Christine. I love that we have people tuning in from everywhere, and people are just sharing different things. Christine, as you were talking about the brain fog, she says it affects her every day. Living with lupus and so many other conditions can be so difficult, and brain fog is something that a lot of people deal with. I think you were also talking about like the different symptoms and the trackers and stuff, and she's utilizing some other methods and apps. So I think it's really good to be able to to share with that, and to share what's helping you. It might help someone else. And that's why I think support groups are so great, because not only do you get to share with others, but you get to learn as well. And I know Kelly's asking, she says, do you feel that rheumatologists address depression and or anxiety? I feel like the PCPs are asked to treat these conditions most often. Do you all feel the same? I don't know if you can respond to that.
Yes. So great question, of course. So I think that sometimes doctors, I think for the most part, doctors, specialists, they want to be as in-depth as they can with a lot of patients, but sometimes they simply don't have the time. And a lot of times it comes down to that. So I was at a talk a month ago, and there was a doctor that was there. She was a rheumatologist, and she was giving tips, right? How to address issues within a short period of time. she was saying that, we don't always have access to our health history, right? It's not like there's this central place where we can get all the info. So we have to be advocates and owners of our own medical history. So she says that she suggests to patients to say, Doctor, Mr. Mrs. Rheumatologist, I am a complex patient. What do you need from me to be able to have an effective, consultation with you in 15 or 20 minutes? And advocating for yourself, right? Not being afraid to say that. And that way there is that time for things, and maybe even giving them a heads up, doctor, like I said, I'm a complex patient. I would like to discuss XYZ with you. Maybe it's depression, maybe it's anxiety. That way they're aware. So that way when you get there, they open up your folder and they're able to see what things are on your mind and what they would want to address.
Yes, and I think that's part of like the advocacy, right? Again, that word could be so intimidating, but really all it is you asking the provider for a service that you deserve when you're there, and really they're there to help you. So it's good to use your voice and ask for that. And then Christine, I'm going to show she actually recommended a book. You might have been talking about just different things that make us happier, do things that bring us joy, and she's recommending a book called Loving Kindness. And it's so great that, again, sharing these things, and then you have Barbie chiming in saying, hi Barbie. Barbie has her Ken, so I have to say hi to Ken. Anytime I say Barbie, they're the real life Ken and Barbie. So I have to say hello. Thank you, Barbie, for tuning in. Huge advocates also on mental health and pain, and living with chronic pain can be so difficult. So I love that you're tuning in, Barbie. And she's just, thanking Christine for the recommendations. And it's true, this is what it's about. It's about us connecting with one another, learning from each other, and just practicing just different things that can make us feel better. I'll just say hello to a couple more people as I bring on Lorena on shortly. So hi Deborah, thank you for tuning in. There's so many other people that are joining in. Please say hello in the comments so I could spotlight you. We're gonna go ahead and bring on Lorena. Thank you, Amalia, for the amazing presentation on lupus mental health support and different methodologies that you could utilize to relieve your stress, your fog, and just things that you can use every day. We're going to bring you backstage. Thank you guys for all the questions. And we'll bring you back on later, Amalia. Thank you. Lorena, thank you again for being here with us. We have so many people on watching and tuning in. Before we dive in to your lupus journey, one thing I want everyone to know is who you are, because lupus is not defined. That's not everything that we are. That's just one little simple addition to our lives, right, that we have to deal with. But I want you to let us know what do you do, who you are, and what you're doing right now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Estela, Looms for Lupus, and Amalia. That was amazing. I learned so much. I was taking down some notes. And thank you for holding this space for us. My name is Lorena Gordon. I'm a writer-director. I knew I wanted to make movies since I was 8 years old, and that has always been my dream. And yeah, when I was diagnosed with lupus at the age of 13, I made it like my whole mission to not let that detour me in what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. If anything, it just ignited a fire inside me to just be determined and to make my dreams happen. So I think I am where I am today because of the discipline and determination that lupus gave me when I was a kid, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that specifically. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and to share my story with you all.
Thank you. Wow, you were diagnosed at the age of 13. Pretty young age. You're going through different things during that time, right? We're dealing with hormones, with, identifying who we are, what we want to do, setting our goals for life, writing about what we want to be in the future. But at the young age of 8, you knew what you wanted to do. And I love to see that even though you had this hurdle or this new thing called lupus impact your life at the young age of 13, that didn't stop you. Your dream to become a award-winning writer, director, producer, and everything else didn't stop. It actually ignited you probably, and had you focus on what you wanted to do. So share with us a little bit more about your upbringing, your support system, because I know that plays a huge role when it comes to living with these difficult conditions, but also to try to move forward and get to your goals and live your dreams.
Absolutely. Having a strong support system is everything. And I was so fortunate, as soon as I was diagnosed, to have my family with me and taking care of me. And, it's such a whirlwind, when you get this news, right? I feel like as young as I was, like I knew that my life from that point on would never be the same. Like I was cognizant of that. I didn't know how it would change or what the future would hold, but I knew that I made a promise to myself that I was going to do everything in my power to take care of myself. And going back to a relationship that you were talking Amalia was talking about with your rheumatologist. Again, I only had two rheumatologists since 13 till now. When I was living in New York, I had one, and now that I'm living here in Los Angeles, I had my other rheumatologist. But just creating this, relationship with them and trusting them, and also not being afraid to ask questions. Like, no question is dumb, and they know with me that I will come with like my phone with notes and questions and anything that I have, because I want to make sure that we're on the same page and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that your health is the priority. So I think having a great relationship and support system also includes a rheumatologist, as well as your family, right? To understand that sometimes you are going to have off days and not feel at 100, and them being able to understand that and be considerate, I think plays a major role as well.
I love that tip about writing things down. That's one of the things I think we can take away is, if you come prepared, Amalia mentioned it as well, let your doctor know, let your rheumatologist know when you're coming in, what the plan is, what your expectations are, but also write down your questions in advance, prepare for that visit, just like you would prepare for anything, for an interview, for a job interview, for really anything that you're dealing with. And I think it's so important to have that great relationship. It's amazing that you've only had two rheumatologists, because I know it's so difficult to have a good relationship or partnership with a rheumatologist. I hear so many times, people firing the rheumatologist, seeking a new one. So I'm glad that you were able to find someone that you can connect to and that you felt comfortable with, and that you're working together for your health, for the best care that you can get. I know that, again, living with these conditions can be difficult. And like you said, you're not always going to be at 100. What do you do to kind of help yourself when you're not feeling that 100? Do you seek any help? Do you do anything to rest? Do you use mindfulness? Any sort of methodology that you use to help you kind of practice that self-care?
Yeah, it's so essential, right? Self-care. And I think it's like the first thing that we don't even, that we don't take, or we don't put as priority. We put everyone else as priority, and then it's the self-care. So I'm trying to be better at that, but I think it boils down to, not being afraid to ask for help or seek a therapist, right? To be able to speak about what's going on and what you're going through. Because I feel like it's so crucial to have that safe space, right? Outside of, family or partners or anything, it's to have this one person where you can speak to freely. And I think that's important. That's been really important to me. And also just being out in nature or going on a walk and just being able to clear your mind. I feel like as a creative, I'm always in my head, right? I'm always creating stories, always. So you have to kind of sometimes tap out of that. If not, you're going to go crazy. So I try to, you know, go to the gym or go on a hike or even, go on a walk, just to take at least 15 minutes just to clear my brain. I think that's super helpful as well. And reading and relaxing. Sleep is so crucial. And I always, when I was younger, I really didn't care too much about sleep. I thought I could pull all-nighters and sleep, 4 hours and, it would be fine. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that I need at least 7 hours of sleep, of good sleep. And I feel like refreshed for the next day. And I feel even with my, lupus fog, I can still, pull it together. But less than that, it's very difficult for me. So I try to really make it a priority for sleep because I do feel like a difference. Like I will know when I am like lacking sleep that it's not going well for me and I need to recharge my batteries and yeah, just mentally. Yeah. So I try to get my full 7 hours of sleep.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm glad that you're able to do that and that you're able to kind of track, the amount of sleep that you're taking, using these creative ways of disconnecting. Nature for me also is something that I connect to. My brain is always firing like at night. Like I'm like, I need to relax. I need to rest. So I start doing like breathing techniques, just calming my brain down, focusing on that. And that kind of helps me. But nature by far is probably the best for me because I get to be out there and I'm one of those that likes to take my shoes off. I like to feel the ground. I like to feel the texture, smell the flowers. I always joke about this because I love beautiful flowers, gardens and stuff, but I do not have a green thumb. So I don't plant. So I leave that to the experts like my husband, my mom. They have beautiful gardens. I'll just come and enjoy that. But don't make me plant anything. But speaking of planting, one of the things that I know that has been a huge impact in our communities is our where we're planted or where we come from. And I know that you've done films, right? You want to share stories, and the films that you've done, are personal stories. And I just want you, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what stories are you sharing in your films that you're doing, just so people that have not watched your films know what to expect when they go watch these films.
Sure. Yeah. I always say I feel like when, or at least when I go to the movies or see a movie, I want to be moved. I think there's so much distractions nowadays with social media and just everyone's on their phone. It's just we're surrounded by so much. So I want to escape for an hour and a half or however long and go into this world and to be moved and learn something and take something out of what I've just watched. That's how I personally feel. So I want to do that for an audience and share personal films that are inspiring, films that pose a question, films or stories that no one's ever heard of but have happened. And those are the films that I feel like connect. They always say the more personal, the more universal. We're all human beings. We all feel, we all have the same feelings. You know, we're all connected, even though we're all different, right? And there's so much, especially today, there's so much, you know, hate and so much craziness happening in the world, but we are all the same, and there's so much more that connects us than divides us. And I want to showcase that in the films that I make. So one of my first short films dealt with sharing the story inspired by my mom's experience of leaving an abusive marriage, and showcasing the strength of a woman to, you know, be able to leave a situation like that, you know, for the sake of her kids. And the other one dealt with, you know, the struggles of a teenager coming to terms with her sexuality and being a teenager. And there's so much happening when you're a teenager and figuring who you are. So these are all things that I feel like will resonate with audiences, and are stories that, you know, I would want to see if I were to go, you know, to the theater. So it's just having a platform where, that's why I'm so grateful to have come from a city like New York City, where, you know, we were just immersed by so much diversity and no one looked the same, and everyone came from different backgrounds. And that was fascinating to me. And I want to share that, because when you travel the country and you realize, you know, people in the Midwest, you know, they've never experienced, you know, I don't know, it's I want to make sure that people know that, you know, people of color exist, and then all these different experiences exist. So that's been my mission as a filmmaker, is just to um, create community and create a platform for voices that often don't get shared.
And you know, that's one of the things that I loved about both, because I've watched both of your films and I can't wait to see what you're working on next. You know, those stories do hit home, because a lot of times we don't always talk about these things, right? Kind of like not talking about mental health and all the issues that we may be facing, you know, dealing with living now with a chronic condition like lupus that's going to affect our mind, our bodies, but also dealing with the daily struggles of life, you know, and acceptance from others, and others viewing us, and us being seen and heard. And, you know, as Hispanic Latinos, you know, we're not always seen and heard. But also, you know, when you have a lot of women going through, and men dealing with, you know, domestic violence and abuse, you know, there's always like something that you can capture, the resiliency that we all have, you know, to overcome all these things. And I love that you're shining the light on all these things that not everyone talks about, because the reality is that there are people out there that are going through this, right? Our human connection is probably by far the best connection that we can have. And to have storytellers, writers, directors like you sharing those stories and making us feel seen and heard, I think is going to be the most impactful thing. You know, for me, you know, just you sharing a little bit about that and about those stories, and just the things that you know people are facing is great. So as far as your next project, are we going to be seeing something soon? How soon? And then also, if you could plug in and let us know, for the people that are watching, where can they, you know, watch your films?
Sure. So the strikes did delay a project that we were working on, that we were hoping to be shooting, you know, during the summer. So, but now that that's over, hopefully we'll be shooting by next summer. So that's the next project that we'll be filming, and we'll be traveling to New York to film that movie. So it's a it's a wonderful feeling to go back home and being able to go back knowing that you're making a film that that you've been working so hard to make. So stay tuned for that. And that's the feature to the short that you can watch on Max, not HBO now, but Max. So if you have Max, you can watch At Last. It's a coming of age story. It has a great cast. Again, it has heart. And we've been, very lucky to be able to share the film, on a platform like Max, where people can access it easily. So yeah, you can check it out there. And there's also some shorts on YouTube. If you just type in my name, some shorts will show up as well. Or on Instagram, we're constantly posting, about upcoming projects. So you can find us there as well.
That's amazing. So you get to go back to New York, which I know you're probably like just waiting to go back home, even though we love having you here in LA. And there's nothing wrong with LA, Lorena. Film something here in LA. But yes, we have a couple of people that are putting on comments here, just basically about just different things. So one of the things that you mentioned is, being diagnosed with lupus at a young age of 13. And we have Kelly. Kelly actually says that she was diagnosed at the age of 11. So, again, these curves that we have to go through, these life curves, and continuing to live despite living with these conditions. I think you were also talking about, just writing down your notes when you prepare to go with your doctor. Christy was talking about, she keeps a pen and a paper during every appointment because she forgets things, right? So it's always good to be able to, to get these tips and to just remind everyone, like, no matter who you are, like, these are great tips for you to utilize, when you're coming in to see the different. And she said, I think she also said, can you share a link? So we're going to share a link to what I'll do is at the end, I'll share a link to where they can, get more information about you, where they can go watch the film. And you said Max, so I was saying HBO, I'm so sorry about that. And then also, just to keep learning about, what you're doing, to follow you. I'll put your links there so people can follow you on, I think you're on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And then that way they can, connect with you. But also before, we bring Amalia back and have like another discussion, like the three of us, I do have a question. So with you living with lupus, why are you okay sharing? And I don't mean like, why are you okay? A lot of people don't always share about their chronic conditions because, they choose not to. What made you feel like, it's okay for me to share this?
That's a great question. I think for the longest time, so when I was diagnosed, I was 13. I was in junior high, and it was tough. I got bullied a lot. Like, I hated going to school. Like, I dreaded it so much. And, I had to step into my power, and I didn't step into my power until much later in life. But once I stepped into my power, I was able to reclaim that, yes, it's a part of me, and it's made me who I am today. Like, I have no doubt about that. I would have had a completely different experience and maybe the life path. I don't know, who knows, but it's definitely informed who I am. And growing up, it would have been nice to know that there were other people that were open about, whether lupus or another medical condition. Just like, it would have been to see representation and to hear these stories of how they've gotten through, their diagnosis. It would have been nice. It would have been helpful for sure. So now that I'm in this position and I can have a platform and share, like, I want to do that. I want to tell people that, it is that, you are the captain of your ship, right? And if you can do everything in your power to make sure that you can stay healthy and that you have, a relationship with your doctor that will, it's a teamwork. Basically, it's teamwork with your rheumatologist, and it falls on you, right, to be diligent about your medications and how much sleep you get, how much stress, which I'm guilty of too. Like, I will be super stressed out, and then of course I'll be like in bed for like the next 2 days. So, like, I'm still working on it, and I just want to share my story and share that, everything's going to be okay, and that regardless of our diagnosis, like it doesn't determine like who we are, right? It's a part of us, and we got to keep, we got to keep fighting on. And yeah, I just wanted to share because I feel like I said, representation is everything. And as a Latinx queer person living with lupus, it would have been nice to have seen one of those identities growing up and being able to see myself in that.
I love that. I love that you do that. I love that you're sharing, because there are so many people out there that want to see people that look like them. And, and like Christine said, we have to end the stigma of, having all these things that, define who we are. We are more than our illnesses. And not only that, she also said here, our illnesses give us power. Yes, that's exactly. They give us the power to continue to push forward, right? And I want people to see your story and to hear your story, because, regardless of what they're going through right now at this young age, they can still continue to live and thrive despite living with these conditions, and live your dreams. I mean, you have overcome so much. Your mom overcame so much. You as a child probably saw traumatic things, and then, dealing with a diagnosis like lupus, still continuing to live your dream, pursuing your dream. And then now, getting awards, having your all of your amazing films out there for people to see and watch. I think this is amazing, especially within our communities, within our queer communities, within our Latinx communities. We need representation. So thank you for being our spokesperson for these different communities. And thank you for amplifying the lupus patients' voices, and for sharing your story, and for allowing us to tap into your life a little bit and to get to know you a little bit more. So I'm going to bring on Amalia to the stage, because, we could talk for days here, Amalia and Lorena, about all these amazing things, and things that we can, provide to others, but not also provide to others, but to inspire others. And, living with lupus does affect your mind, your body, physically and mentally. And that is why we started doing what we did. When my sister Juana, who is not here with us today because she had to work, when she was first diagnosed, we didn't know much about lupus. She was very depressed, and it really impacted her a lot. Her life had changed tremendously. She has been going through so much, that, she wanted to do something else. And she started loom knitting, which is how we came about with knitting a community of hope and Looms for Lupus. And we also wanted to share with others that it does impact your mental health. And then we wanted to find ways to educate and provide workshops to, not only the person living with lupus, but their caregivers as well, and their families, on different modalities to utilize for stress management, because we knew that stress triggers flares. And the flares is what causes your lupus to be active, right? So from the get-go, we incorporated, the mindfulness techniques, the knitting, the art therapy, the painting, and all of these wonderful breathing techniques, ideas. And we wanted to bring in experts to talk about it as well, because obviously I'm not an expert. And mental health was something that we didn't really talk about back then. Fast forward to 2023, here we are talking to someone that lives with lupus, that has, despite of the lupus diagnosis, has been able to achieve a lot of your dreams. And I'm sure you have way more to come. There are more dreams that you're going to be, that are going to be becoming a reality. And then also, Amalia, for you, to be able to present and work with an organization like GSK that provides the support for organizations like us and for our community, to be able to feel that they're not alone, and to know that they can, that there are resources out there. So, it's just amazing to be able to work together, and highlight all of these things, right? So I want to go see if there's any questions on here. Oh, I love this. Christine says, Having those experts in the room makes a huge difference. And thank you for including them. I love it. Christine has lived with lupus for a long time. She's a huge advocate and one of my best friends. And one of the things that I always learn from her is, she's always like moving and keeps moving and going. And sometimes I have to tell her, you have to relax, you have to rest, you have to practice self-care. But for her, keeping busy is one of the things that gives her purpose. And so I try not to, overburden as a friend and say, stop what you're doing, because I know that this is what she loves to do and that's where she thrives. So, I love that, Lorena, you shared about, family, you shared about, how they've helped you and how you can ask for help. I just want to, if you want to share anything else, Lorena, about anything else, like when not only when do we get to see the next things, but what are you up to now? Like, what is it that you're doing right now, for yourself, for your career, or anything that you're doing that's helping you at this moment?
Sure. I think what gives me joy is, we're, as a creative, you're constantly learning, right? You're still a student and you're still like just being able to like listen to podcasts or reading books or reading scripts, right? That have to deal with, you know, your your passion or, what you do for a living. Like that fills me up with so much joy, right? Because I love it and it doesn't feel like work. So when I get the chance to do that, like I don't know, it doesn't feel like homework, if you will, right? It feels like I'm soaking in new knowledge. So um that brings me joy, like from the day to day of like working a 9 to 5 and sometimes not feeling well or feeling exhausted, but knowing that I'm doing something to hopefully, push me forward a little bit and, and make me a better filmmaker or better, or even, a better person, right? Listening to self care and self improvement and listening to or write or reading, self help books. Like I think that's all about, how can I be a better person? And I think that brings me joy and fulfillment in like the day-to-day craziness, because yeah, sometimes it could be crazy and stressful and like I said, like it's funny because like I feel like your body, like your body so well, right? Like you are your biggest advocate, you are your biggest champion, and then you will know, okay, I think I'm over exerting myself and I'm overdoing it and I need to kind of pump the brakes, or like, oh, my knees are hurting and now I have a headache and I need to kind of, you know, take a breather. But yeah, but what was it, Christine that said that
Yeah.
the go, go, go? Yeah, I'm the same. And then that's my nickname is like the Energizer Bunny. I'm just go, 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 go. But sometimes, it, I can't. So I have to realize that and just kind of take it easy and know that, in order for me to be able to keep doing what I'm doing, I have to recharge and that's okay. And it's going to be okay. So
I love it. And she's right with you. She says crazy and stressful, but so worth it at the end. That is so true. So we want you to continue listening to those podcasts, to those self-care podcasts, and to continue to practice, mindfulness and also to continue growing, right? To continue growing and listening to the things that you love, so then we can be able to reap those benefits and by watching all of the stuff that you're going to be doing. And then Amalia, for you, thank you so much again for just again supporting the lupus community and for sharing so many amazing tools that you guys offer. Is there anything that you would like to just add on about where they can go, to just a shout out about where people can go to for more information about lupus and the Us and Lupus program? Oh, you're muted.
It's been 5 years. Okay. Yes. So the QR codes that I showed at the beginning, and that is something that I'm assuming, Estela, you could just put up on your board or whatever. But it's really simple. You just use your phone like you're going to take a picture, and it'll lead you directly to that. And so most of the information that we covered today will be there, and that symptom tracker that has the prompt for the emotional and mental prompts that you can start to fill in as you track your symptoms. So taking it that next extra step, putting that information, and then it also talks a little bit more about mindfulness, how, you know, you don't have to be mindful for 2 hours straight, right? Even just 1 minute a day, 30 seconds a day to slow down, quiet your mind, listen to your body, right? Like Lorena just said, no one knows our body more than we know ours, right? So if we're always going, which is great, no shade, right? But if we can take just 30 seconds a day to just kind of be still, makes a world of difference.
Yes, definitely. And we had, a couple people just thanking GSK for all that you guys are doing for the lupus community, and just for keeping an interest. We need better treatments. We need more support. And most importantly, we need to just stay together and learn from each other. I know time is up. It is 5:02. I just want to, again, thank you. Time flies when you're having fun. I loved what you guys shared. I loved all the different tools. We do have our website where we're going to have links. Well, we actually have the links already under resources for the Us and Lupus program. So feel free to go there. But I will also put in the links on here on the comment section. And, anyone that comes back later on to watch this recording, which will be on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter, it'll live there and they will be able to capture all that information. And then also, Lorena, thank you again so much for sharing your journey, your story, and most importantly, for being who you are, for being so genuine, for connecting with the community, and for understanding that, even though we may be going through difficult things, we can still help someone else. And you helping us be able to amplify, awareness for lupus, but not also that, being a role model for our community members, our young adults. I think that is so inspiring. And again, so grateful to have you here. And it's just, so amazing to have both of you. And that concludes our live symposium. Thank you again, GSK and Lorena Gordon. And thank you for those that tuned in. And we'll leave it with Christine. Thank you for being an authentic voice in our community. And that's for you, Lorena. That is authenticity at its best. The tips and everything that you shared with us, we love. So thank you again. And with that, we'll see you guys all. Hope you guys tune in next week because we're going to have a presentation similar to this in Español.